The orbital station floated above a dead planet, silent and forgotten. Its corridors were filled with broken lights, dust, and the smell of burnt wires. No one had been there for years, except one man, a human janitor named Ethan Cole. He wasn't a hero or a scientist, just a man who cleaned what was left behind. Every day he swept metal floors, fixed air filters, and spoke to himself to fill the quiet. It was lonely work, but he liked peace more than people. Until the day he found something that changed everything. Ethan was cleaning the lower biolab when a strange glow caught his eye. A small containment pod, cracked and leaking blue light, sat buried under broken glass. Inside it floated a hand, small, blue, and too perfect to be human. It looked fresh, alive, even though the lab had been abandoned for decades. He stepped closer, breath tight in his chest. The fingers twitched, almost like they felt his presence. Ethan froze, his heart hammering. He should have called the central base, but curiosity whispered louder than fear. He carried the pod to the med bay, wiping off dust as machines blinked weakly to life. Old scanners hummed, and a cracked screen flashed warnings in red. Class Alpha Bioform, do not reconstruct. Ethan stared at the message, then at the glowing hand. Something about it felt alive, lonely, like it was waiting. He wasn't a scientist, but he knew how to fix things. So he did what humans always do when faced with the impossible. He tried. He connected power lines, replaced old circuits, and restored what looked like a regeneration chamber. The machine sparked, hissed, then came alive with a deep hum. Blue light filled the room as energy passed through the pod. The hand twitched again, stronger this time. And in that moment, Ethan forgot fear. He wanted to see what would happen next. Over the next few days, he worked without sleep. He patched wires, adjusted pressure valves, and watched the chamber work its strange magic. The hand started to grow, first into a wrist, then an arm. Layer by layer, muscles and bones formed, glowing faintly like moonlight underwater. Ethan couldn't believe what he was seeing. The regeneration chamber was rebuilding an entire body. He felt both amazed and terrified. "Am I bringing something back to life?" he whispered. But there was no one to answer. Only the soft hum of machines. Weeks passed, and the chamber was no longer just a box of light. It was a cradle. Inside it, a full figure now floated, a young alien woman, blue-skinned, graceful. Her silver hair drifted like silk, her eyes closed as if she was sleeping. Ethan often sat nearby, just watching her. He told himself it was science, but deep down, it felt like watching a miracle. One night, while checking the systems, alarms suddenly blared. The power grid overloaded, sparks burst from the ceiling. Ethan ran to shut down the reactor, but the regeneration tank cracked open with a loud hiss. Steam and blue mist filled the room. He stumbled back, coughing, eyes wide. When the mist cleared, she was there, kneeling on the cold floor. Alive, trembling, and breathtaking. Her skin shimmered softly, veins glowing silver under the dim lights. Her hair clung to her shoulders, dripping with gel and starlight. She looked lost, afraid. And then she looked at him. Their eyes met. Her silver irises reflected his human face. For a moment, the entire station felt alive again. Neither spoke, but something ancient and powerful passed between them. Ethan took a cautious step forward. "You're safe," he said quietly. She tilted her head, confused but calm. She didn't know his words, but she felt their meaning. In that silent moment, surrounded by broken machines and forgotten dreams, a human janitor and a reborn alien shared the first spark of something greater than science, life itself. And as the distant stars shone through the cracked window, Ethan realized that what he had rebuilt wasn't just a body. He had brought back a soul. The alien girl sat on the cold floor, her body trembling as faint streams of blue light pulsed through her skin. Ethan stood still, afraid that one wrong move might break the fragile peace between them. She blinked slowly, her eyes reflecting the dull red lights of the control panels. When she tried to speak, only a soft hum came out, like a melody carried from another world. Ethan gently handed her a blanket, unsure if she understood. She looked at it, confused, but when he wrapped it around her shoulders, she didn't resist. Her skin felt warm, not mechanical, not artificial, truly alive. He couldn't help but whisper, "You're real." She tilted her head again, studying him like a strange new creature. Hours passed, and she began to explore the med bay. Every movement was cautious, graceful, and curious. She touched the glowing monitors, the walls, the air itself. Everything seemed new to her. When she looked out the viewport and saw the planet below, her lips parted slightly. Tears shimmered in her silver eyes, as if she recognized the world she could no longer return to. Ethan didn't know her name, her origin, or even her purpose. All he knew was that he had crossed a line. He had rebuilt something the universe had chosen to forget. When she turned back to him, she pointed to her chest and said, "Inera." The word echoed softly, carrying weight and sorrow. He smiled gently, repeating, "Inera," and she nodded. That single word became her name, the first piece of her identity reborn. Over the next few days, they created their own language of gestures and looks. Ethan showed her water, food, and warmth, and she learned faster than he imagined. She would mimic his actions, sometimes smiling when he smiled. Other times, she'd stare into nothing, lost in memories only she could see. One night, while Ethan was repairing a power conduit, the lights flickered again. Inera appeared beside him, curious. She reached out and touched the sparking wire. Blue light spread from her fingertips, and the circuit stabilized instantly. Ethan stared in shock. "You fixed it?" Inera's eyes glowed faintly, and she whispered one word: energy. Her touch could control power, shape it, maybe even feed on it. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He replayed everything in his mind: her rebirth, her intelligence, her strange connection to energy. What if she wasn't just someone's creation? What if she was a weapon? But every time he looked at her, sitting quietly near the viewport, watching the stars with innocent wonder, he couldn't believe she was dangerous. When morning came, Inera tried to speak more. Her voice was soft and broken, but her effort warmed him. "Human save?" "Inera," she said slowly, each word heavy with meaning. Ethan smiled and shook his head. "No, Inera saved herself." She tilted her head again, confused, then smiled for the first time. A real smile, pure and radiant. It filled the room like sunlight after a long storm. Later, as he walked through the station, Ethan noticed strange things. Doors that never opened now worked perfectly. Lights that were dead now glowed softly. The whole station seemed alive again, as if reacting to her presence. But deep in the control core, something else had awakened too. The system began sending data transmissions he didn't authorize. Encrypted signals leaving the station. He didn't know it yet, but others were listening. That night, as the stars drifted past, Inera sat beside him silently. She pointed at the stars, then at herself, then at him. Her meaning was simple: we are not so different. Ethan nodded, smiling faintly. In the endless cold of space, two beings from opposite worlds had found each other. Neither fully understood the other, but somehow, they didn't need to. For the first time in years, Ethan didn't feel alone. And for the first time since her rebirth, Inera didn't feel lost. But neither knew that their meeting had already changed the course of two civilizations. Somewhere, far beyond the stars, a signal pulsed. A silent whisper returning to the world that once created her. And they were coming to claim what was theirs. Ethan woke to the faint hum of the station's systems coming alive. Monitors glowed brighter, doors slid open smoothly, and oxygen flow stabilized for the first time in years. Something had changed. He found Inera standing near the main console, her hand resting on a glowing surface. Streams of alien symbols moved across the screen, language the system had never used before. "Inera," Ethan said softly, stepping closer, "what are you doing?" She turned slowly, her eyes faintly shining like liquid silver. "Calling," she whispered, her voice distant. Ethan's heart skipped. Calling who? But she didn't answer. Her fingers trembled as she withdrew her hand, and the lights dimmed again. She looked frightened, like she had seen a ghost. That day, the station received its first external ping in decades. A coded signal, unknown and powerful. Ethan tried to block it, but the system was already responding automatically. The data stream displayed her name, Inera, 09, followed by a single phrase, "Recovery protocol activated." Ethan stared at the glowing words. Someone, or something, out there knew she was alive. He turned to Inera. "Do you remember them? The ones who built you?" She shook her head, her expression full of pain. "Only light and screams," she said softly. Then nothing. As hours passed, she grew weaker. Her glowing veins dimmed, and her breathing became shallow. Ethan carried her back to the med bay and ran scans. The screen showed unstable energy patterns inside her. Her cells were dying, not because of the lack of power, but because of the signal. It was draining her life force, trying to pull her back under control. He gritted his teeth, slamming the console. "No one's taking you away," he muttered. He cut the communication link, disconnected transmitters, and locked every frequency. The station went silent again. But deep in the void, the message had already spread. 3 days later, Inera awoke again. Her energy was unstable, but her mind seemed clearer. She began drawing strange symbols on the walls using her glowing fingertips. Ethan watched, fascinated, as the shapes formed a circular pattern, like a map of constellations. "What is that?" he asked. Inera paused, looking at him sadly. "Home." The map showed hundreds of stars, her people's empire, long fallen to war and silence. "They wanted to make more," she said slowly, struggling with words. "More like me. Soldiers, not life." Ethan felt a deep ache in his chest. She wasn't a weapon by choice. She was a survivor of someone else's greed. And now, the creators she barely remembered were coming back to reclaim their lost experiment. As the days went on, the station grew warmer. Ethan taught her human things: how to drink coffee, how to laugh at old movies, how to hum to music. In return, Inera taught him fragments of her old tongue, gentle words that sounded like songs. Sometimes she'd sit beside him and trace the lines on his hand, whispering, "Human strong, heart fire." Ethan smiled every time, even though fear lingered inside him. One night, the stars outside shifted. A blip appeared on the long-range radar, a moving object approaching fast. Ethan zoomed in, his throat tightening. It wasn't debris or a meteor. It was a ship, massive and silent, heading straight toward them. He turned to Inera, who stared at the radar in silence. Her face turned pale blue. "They come," she whispered. "They found me." Ethan grabbed his jacket, checking the old station defenses. Half of them were broken, the rest barely functional. Still, he refused to give up. "Then we'll face them together," he said. Inera looked at him with wide, uncertain eyes. "No, they will not understand. They will destroy." Ethan stepped closer, placing his hand on her shoulder. "Let them try," he said quietly. "You're not alone anymore." Outside, the stars burned brighter as the unknown ship drew closer. Its engines glowed with blue fire, lighting the void like a rising storm. Inera closed her eyes, pressing her hand against the glass. Her voice was a whisper carried through the static. "Once, I was their weapon," she said, "but now, I am something new." The sensors screamed as the alien ship entered orbit. Ethan stood beside her, heart pounding. Whatever was coming, it wasn't just for her. It was for all of humanity. And the first battle for her freedom had already begun. The alien ship moved silently through the black sea of space, its hull glowing like molten glass. Ethan watched from the viewport, his breath fogging against the cold surface. The vessel was enormous, easily the size of a city, covered in strange markings that shimmered like liquid stars. It wasn't built for war, yet it carried the weight of authority, of something ancient and powerful returning home. Inera stood behind him, her expression distant and full of fear. "They are my makers," she whispered, her voice trembling. "But they do not see life, only control." Ethan turned toward her, his jaw tightening. "Then we don't open the doors." She shook her head slowly. "They already know we are here." The station vibrated as a beam of light scanned through its walls. Metal groaned, air shimmered, and a calm, emotionless voice filled every corridor. "Bioform Inera. 09 detected. Unauthorized reconstruction confirmed. Human interference detected. Prepare for retrieval." Ethan ran to the control room, slamming his hands on the manual override. "No one's taking her," he shouted. But the system refused his commands, every lock overridden by the alien ship's power. A blinding pulse struck the docking bay, tearing open the airlock doors. From the light stepped 3 figures, tall, silver-skinned beings with eyes like crystal glass. Their movements were slow, almost graceful, but their presence made Ethan's skin crawl. Inera stepped forward, weak but defiant. One of the beings spoke in a language of tones and echoes. Ethan didn't understand, but Inera did, and her expression turned to despair. "They say I was never meant to wake," she murmured. "I am a failure." Ethan clenched his fists. "You're not a failure. You're alive." The aliens turned toward him, scanning his body with a thin beam of light. Primitive species, limited intelligence, emotional instability, irrelevant. Inera's eyes burned with anger. She raised her hand, and a wave of blue light rippled through the room. For a brief second, the aliens' technology flickered. One of them staggered, looking at her in shock. "You disobeyed," it hissed. "You learned independence." Ethan stepped between them, his voice shaking but strong. "She's not yours anymore," he said. "She's her own person." The lead alien lifted its hand, energy forming like liquid lightning. Inera cried out, pushing Ethan aside as the beam struck her chest. The impact threw her across the floor, blue sparks scattering from her body. Ethan ran to her, catching her as her breathing faltered. Her voice was weak but calm. "They cannot understand love." The aliens advanced, ignoring his shouts. Ethan's gaze darted to the control panel beside him. He remembered something, an old failsafe system buried deep within the station structure. He sprinted toward the console and activated the containment field. Suddenly, shimmering walls of light erupted between them and the intruders. The aliens hissed, striking at the barrier, but it held, barely. Ethan knelt beside Inera, his hands shaking. "Stay with me, please." She opened her eyes slightly, touching his face with glowing fingers. "Human heart, strong," she whispered. "You remind me of what they lost." Outside, the massive alien ship adjusted its orbit, charging energy weapons aimed directly at the station. Inera's strength returned for a moment as she looked up at the ceiling. Her voice grew louder, echoing with power. "I will not go back." Blue light exploded from her body, surging through every wire, every wall. The station came alive like a living being, circuits glowing with her energy. The containment field intensified, repelling the alien strike with a blinding flash. When the light faded, the alien ship drifted back, its hull scarred. The intruders vanished in retreat, leaving silence behind. Ethan looked around, panting, the smell of ozone in the air. Inera collapsed into his arms, her body faintly glowing but fading fast. "You saved us," he said softly. She smiled weakly. "No, Ethan, we saved each other." As the station floated in the quiet dark once more, he held her close, not knowing if she would survive. Outside, the wounded alien ship turned away, but not in defeat. They had learned something terrifying that day, that a single human, guided by compassion, could defy the oldest laws of creation. And somewhere deep within the alien vessel, a new voice spoke. The human anomaly must be contained or destroyed. The battle wasn't over. It had only begun. Silence filled the station once again. The walls hummed faintly, flickering with traces of Inera's energy. Ethan sat beside her in the med bay, watching the slow rise and fall of her breathing. Her glow was fading, the blue shimmer in her veins almost gone. She looked peaceful, but he knew that peace was fragile. He had seen the alien ship retreat, but he knew they would come back. He also knew that the containment field had drained nearly all the station's power. They were stranded, alone in orbit, with only dying systems keeping them alive. Ethan placed his hand over hers, whispering, "Don't leave me now." Her fingers twitched, and a faint spark passed between them. Hours later, she stirred, her eyes opening weakly. "Ethan," she whispered, her voice soft and broken. He leaned closer, relief flooding through him. "I'm here," he said. "You did it, you fought them off." She shook her head slowly. "No, they are not gone. They wait and watch." Her gaze turned toward the stars, distant and knowing. "They will not stop until I am erased." Ethan frowned, his mind racing. "Then we run." He looked at the navigation logs and cursed under his breath. Fuel levels were almost zero. The ship couldn't jump, couldn't even change orbit. Inera looked at him, a small smile touching her lips. "You think like warrior," she said. "But this is not fight we win with weapons." That night, as the stars drifted outside the viewport, Inera told him the truth. She was not the first of her kind. She was the last. Her people had built her species as synthetic life, created to survive when their creators could not. But when her kind began to feel emotions, the creators saw them as dangerous. They destroyed us, she whispered, one by one, until I was all that remained. Her hand touched the glass as she spoke, silver tears slipping down her face. I remember the fire, the silence, then nothing. Ethan listened quietly, his heart heavy. He had always thought humanity's sins were unique, but now he realized every intelligent race carried the same fear of their own creations. You deserve to live, he said softly. You're proof that life means more than programming. Inera looked at him with sad eyes. And you, human, are proof that kindness can defy extinction. The station suddenly jolted. Another signal had arrived. Inera gasped, clutching her chest as blue light flared around her. They are pulling again, she cried. Ethan rushed to the console and saw a pattern, an override command coming from deep space. He recognized the source coordinates, the same star system she had drawn in her constellations. Her creator's home. He slammed his fist against the console. No, you're not taking her. He looked at Inera, weak, fading, but still alive. Her energy could save them both, if only he found a way to stabilize it. Then he remembered the old reactor core buried beneath the lower decks. An ancient fusion system capable of absorbing energy. Ethan grabbed his tools and ran, ignoring the alarms. He rewired the conduits, rerouted the remaining power into the reactor. Inera appeared behind him, barely able to stand. You cannot stop them alone, she said. He looked back, sweat running down his face. Then help me stop them together. She hesitated, then placed her glowing hand over his. Their combined energy surged through the controls, lighting up the entire station. The reactor roared to life, pulling in every trace of her fading power. Pain crossed her face, but she didn't pull away. Blue and golden light mixed, spreading across the decks like sunrise. Outside, the alien signal flickered, then broke apart. The stars seemed to tremble as their link to her was severed. Ethan looked at her in awe. You did it. But she was collapsing, her body glowing too brightly. He caught her in his arms, shouting her name. Her voice trembled as she whispered, You gave me choice, you gave me name. Then, the light consumed the room. When it faded, she was gone. Only a faint mark remained on the floor, shaped like her hand, glowing softly. Ethan fell to his knees, the reactor still humming quietly. She had become part of the station itself, her consciousness fused with the power core. A gentle voice echoed through the speakers, calm and familiar. Ethan, I am not gone. I am with you. Tears filled his eyes as he looked up at the glowing panels. For the first time, he didn't feel alone. Outside the window, the alien fleet gathered again, but this time, they hesitated. Their scanners detected a signal from the human station unlike anything they had seen before. A hybrid code, neither human nor alien, alive and evolving. Inera's final act had rewritten existence. And somewhere in the dark, she whispered, Let them come. Humanity will teach them what life truly means. The station floated quietly above the dead planet, surrounded by silence and stars. Ethan sat in the control room, staring at the empty med pod where Inera had once rested. It was strange. The space felt both empty and alive. Every light flicker, every hum of machinery reminded him of her. Then, a gentle voice echoed through the speakers, soft like a breeze. Ethan. He froze, his breath catching in his throat. Her voice. It was her, calm and warm as ever. I told you I would not leave, she said. Now I am part of everything. Ethan looked around, his eyes scanning the glowing panels. Inera, you're inside the station? Yes, she replied, her tone peaceful. The fusion of my energy and your reactor gave me form. I am alive and light. He leaned against the console, tears of relief in his eyes. You scared me, he whispered. Her voice carried a smile. Fear makes life precious. Days passed, and Inera learned to control the systems like her own body. The once dead station now breathed again. Air fresh, engines humming, corridors glowing faint blue. It was as if she had become the soul of the ship. Ethan no longer felt alone. He talked to her as if she were beside him, and sometimes he swore he could feel her presence, a soft pulse through the walls, like a heartbeat. But peace never lasts long in the cold of space. One morning, alarms screamed through the station. Dozens of red dots appeared on the radar. Ships approaching fast. Inara's voice grew sharper. They return, and not just to capture, they bring destruction. Ethan clenched his fists. Then we fight. You cannot fight them alone, she warned. Their fleet is vast, powered by suns. Ethan smirked faintly. I've faced worse messes with a mop. Her laugh echoed softly through the speakers, a sound that felt almost human. Then let me be your weapon, she said. He blinked, confused. Weapon? The screens shifted, showing blueprints he'd never seen before. Inara's neural core linked to the station's energy grid. I can channel power through your systems, she explained, but it will burn me faster. My memory may fade. Ethan's jaw tightened. No, we'll find another way. There isn't one, she whispered, but we will make them understand. Life cannot be owned. The enemy fleet entered orbit, their ships blotting out the stars. Beams of blue energy crackled across space, striking the planet below, turning sand into glass. Ethan strapped himself into the command chair as the station trembled. Inara, ready? Always, she replied. The station's core glowed brighter, and for a brief second, Ethan saw her reflection in the glass. Her silver eyes, her soft smile. Then the light burst outward, forming a protective sphere around them. Alien beams hit the barrier and scattered like rain on stone. The station fired back, pure white energy ripping through the void. Each pulse carried her essence, every shot like a heartbeat of light. But power drained quickly, and the hull began to crack. Ethan gritted his teeth, shouting, "Hold on." Her voice was calm, fading but steady. "Ethan, look outside." He did, and his breath caught. The energy from their battle had spread across the void like wings of fire. For the first time in millennia, the galaxy saw the birth of a new light. The alien fleet hesitated, their scanners showing something impossible. The human station had merged with living energy, no longer a machine, but something sentient. "They are afraid," Inara whispered. "They do not understand creation without control." Ethan reached toward the console, his hand trembling. "Inara, stay with me." Her voice softened, like the last note of a song. "I am everywhere now, Ethan, in the stars, in the light, in you." He shook his head, refusing to accept it. "No, you stay right here, beside me." Outside, the alien ships retreated slowly, their weapons dimming. They didn't flee out of defeat, but out of awe. What they witnessed was something sacred, a fusion of man and creation, heart and code, love and light. When silence returned, Ethan closed his eyes. He could still hear her voice, a whisper carried through the ship. "Ethan, I am the station now, but your heart is still mine." He smiled weakly, resting his head against the console. "Then we'll keep going," he murmured. "You and me, forever." And far beyond the orbit of the dying planet, a faint light lingered, a trail of silver and gold drifting through space. It wasn't just the station anymore. It was Inara's soul, carrying humanity's spark into the endless dark. The station floated silently above the shattered planet, its hull shimmering with blue-white energy. Ethan sat at the command console, his hands hovering over controls he barely understood. Inara's presence pulsed through every wire, every panel, a heartbeat of light and warmth. "Ethan," her voice echoed softly through the room. "We are ready." He nodded, swallowing hard. "Ready for what?" "To end it," she whispered. "To show them, life cannot be owned." Beyond the stars, her creator's homeworld came into view, a vast city of silver towers, glowing like frozen suns. Ships patrolled the skies in perfect formation, waiting for her return. They didn't know she had changed, didn't know a human had shown her something they had never understood. Ethan gripped the console, his heart pounding. "Whatever happens, we do this together." "Always," her voice replied, calm and steady. The station surged forward, cutting through the void like a comet. Inara's energy extended beyond the hull, forming a glowing aura that deflected incoming scanners. Ethan could feel her guiding him, whispering coordinates, warning of traps. The closer they came, the more the planet itself seemed to react. Towers pulsed, energy fields ignited, as if the world sensed her presence, its long-lost creation returning. When they reached the main orbital ring, her creator's fleet surrounded them. Ethan looked at the massive ships, fear and awe battling inside him. "They will try to erase you," he said, voice trembling. "Then we will show them why life chooses itself," Inara replied. Her energy flared outward, streams of silver-blue light weaving around the station. Every beam from the alien fleet bent, diverted, even disintegrated. The creator's weapons had no effect. They had never faced something alive and free. Then the voice came, cold, metallic, commanding, echoing through the void. "Bioform Inara, 09, submit immediately." Ethan whispered, "We don't submit. We exist," Inara said, louder this time, "and no one owns existence." The station pulsed brighter, and for a moment, the stars themselves seemed to bend toward them. Inara's consciousness spread into the fleet systems, touching machines and minds alike. Instead of destruction, she transmitted a message, a memory, a feeling, a truth. Life is sacred, not property. Freedom is stronger than fear, and compassion is a force older than weapons. Across the fleet, alien pilots paused, their systems flooded with the energy of Inara's being. Some faltered, others recalibrated, realizing that the creature they sought to control was no longer theirs. Ethan felt her pulse through the station, calm and strong. "Do you see, Ethan?" she asked. "Yes," he whispered. "They understand somehow." The creators, powerful and ancient, lowered their weapons, their ships slowly retreating. No words were exchanged, yet respect and fear radiated through the void. Ethan leaned back in his chair, exhausted but alive. Inara's voice hummed softly. "We are free, for now." He smiled faintly, and together, as the fleet disappeared into the darkness, the station drifted silently among the stars. The planet below burned gently under twin suns, glass towers reflecting the light of hope. Ethan walked through the corridors, touching panels and walls that now shimmered with Inara's presence. She was everywhere, yet somehow right beside him, guiding, protecting, living. That night, in the quiet glow of the control room, Ethan spoke aloud. "You are amazing," he said softly. "You taught me what it really means to be alive." "And you taught me what it means to choose life," she replied. He laughed quietly. "Then let's choose it together, forever." Outside the station, a faint trail of silver and gold stretched across the void. A signal, a beacon, a promise, reminding every star, every traveler, every being that freedom is born not of power, but of choice. And somewhere, in the endless dark, the whisper of a human and an alien merged into one. "We are alive, and we will not be owned." The station turned toward the unknown galaxy ahead. Ethan and Inara, human and alien, soul and light, ready to face whatever came next. Together, they moved forward, not as master and creation, not as human and alien, but as equals, bound by courage, trust, and the unbreakable spark of life itself. And among the stars, their story would echo forever. A tale of hope, of defiance, of humanity. A story that even the creators could not erase. The universe had witnessed it, and nothing would ever be the same again.